Welcome back to my channel. Today I thought it would make sense to go over and break down the timelines within a real estate transaction. Now the beautiful thing about this is it's the same whether you're the buyer or the seller. The timelines are the same. You might just have different responsibilities within that time frame. So let's go ahead and start breaking it down. Once all parties involved in the transaction have a copy of the accepted purchase contract, everything will start the next day. So for fun, let's say the accepted contract is received by all parties on Monday. The inspection period will start Tuesday. That would be day one of a 10-day inspection period. 10 days is standard, and personally, I would never change that. The beautiful thing about that is there's a lot of things that you can get done within that 10 days. Now, when the 10 days starts, the buyer has the option to do any and all inspections that they deem important to them. It could be a normal general inspection of the property where they're going to give you a really large document and tell you all of the things that they checked in the house, from electrical to plumbing to foundations, window operation, outlet operation, sink drains. Did they drain correctly? Are they clogged? Are there things loose in the walls as far as outlets? Are there missing components, smoke detectors that are really old? Things like that is what the inspector is going to point out. They're really big at looking at health and safety perspectives. So most of the time, that's going to be what you see, along with everything that came out with a healthy check, and then the things that maybe need a little bit more information from the seller or need more clarification, or maybe it was something they could not physically access. So that's your inspector. You might opt to have somebody who specializes in pools come out and do a pool inspection, check on all of that equipment. You might have an HVAC company come out and assess the air conditioning unit, the heating unit, and making sure that is all healthy and good and operating as it should. Or they might make recommendations that it needs to be serviced. You might have a roofer come out to inspect the roof, see if the tiles are correct, if there's any issues. You might also have a termite inspector come out and look at the property, see if there's termites, pests, things along those lines. You might, because maybe mold is really important to you and maybe you know that there was an issue, you might have a mold inspector come out and check on those things to see if there's mold, if there's problems within the property. Anything that as a buyer that is important to you to know, this is your time frame to get that checked and get a report. So you'll have 10 days to do all of your inspections and send over to the seller your buyer's inspection seller's response document. That's also known as the BINSR. So it's a document that you go in and say, these are the repairs that are most important to me, Mr. Seller, and I would love for you to fix them. So once you send that document, your inspection period is done. There is no more, you have ended it. So sellers, be aware that you're not going to get this document until day 9, maybe even day 10 of your inspection period. Because once the buyer does that, they can no longer ask for other repairs or do any other inspections and send over an additional repairs list. So Mr. Seller, once you have received the BINSR, you then will have 5 days to respond to Mr. Buyer who asked for A, B, and C. Now your timeline will start. Day 1 will be the day after you receive the document. So the day you receive the document is day 0. Day 1 starts the next day. And you will have 5 days to respond to the buyer's request of repairs. Now you can do that in one of 3 ways. 1, you can accept all of the repairs and say, yep, great, I'm happy to do all of them. Have a nice day. Send it on back. You can say, I'm willing to do A, B, and C of your repairs. Take that or leave it. Or you could respond and say, I'm not willing to do any repairs and will offer a monetary value instead. And so the 5 days also gives the seller the time frame to get estimates on the cost of repairs. Let's for fun say that the buyer wants the seller to put on a brand new roof. Well, roofs, as you know, are not cheap. And so that gives the it gives the seller time to reach out to different roofing companies to get estimates based on the repairs that they're asking for. Maybe they're asking for an additional condensate drain line because the one that they have is cracked or it's not up to code. It gives them time to reach out to all of the different vendors, a plumbing company, an electrical company, a pool company, to give them prices on what these repairs are going to cost. And then the seller can decide, A, are the costs low enough that I'm happy to do it, or does it make sense to say I'm willing to give you some type of monetary value in lieu of doing the repairs because I'm just not monetarily invested in those repairs. And maybe it's a small fix and you're willing to do it. So it gives you different options to figure out what the cost of repairs are that your buyer is asking for. Another document that you will need to provide to the buyer is the seller's disclosures document. Now, we previously talked that this is like the medical history document of the property. So once you send that to the buyer will have 5 days to accept or reject those and cancel the transaction. I personally will send over the seller's disclosures in conjunction with the fully executed purchase contract. That way their 5 days on the seller's disclosures is included in that 10-day inspection period. They're not gaining any extra days. And that's just me being really diligent and really aware. Depending upon when the buyer receives the seller's disclosures, if they don't get it until day 9 of their inspection period, that's fine, but they will still have 5 days to accept or reject that, which will then give them a longer period of time to cancel the deal, which I try to minimize as best as possible. Now, let's say, Mr. Seller, you have agreed to make so many repairs on the property. You're going to have until 3 days prior to the close of escrow to complete those repairs. That way, everything is completed and done. So when the buyer does their final walkthrough, which could be anywhere from 3 days prior to close to the morning of the day you close or the day before, they're going to walk through the property. They may or may not bring their inspector back with them to make sure that the checklist that they sent on that Binzer document was completed and done correctly. If it's not, Mr. Seller, you then have to go back and fix it until it is correct. So it's really ideal to make sure you're hiring out those repairs to people who are qualified and understand what needs to be done correctly, so that when the buyer does do their final walkthrough, it goes nice and easy breezy and you're clear to close on the day that you're supposed to. Now, there's obviously other things that you can do. If you've got questions, I would love to answer them. Please feel free to comment in below and put your questions, put your comments, put your feedback. Maybe you've had a transaction where something went really funny or really weird, or maybe it was smooth sailing, and I'd love to know that too. So if you've got questions, comment below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time.